enough. I wanted to be one of the best players that ever played the game, or best I could be. And winning on my first European Tour event was definitely was kind of neat.
His best year by far came in 2005 when he won the US Open as a qualifier and went on to claim the world match play title as well. But there followed several years in the wilderness.
Michael Campbell named 5 golfers he will never forgive, not because they cheated, not because they trash-talked, but because they pushed him to a breaking point so severe that winning nearly destroyed him. This is about the psychological cost of immortality in professional golf, and why the summer of 2005 left scars that Campbell carries to this day. In the world of elite sport, victory is supposed to feel triumphant, the trophy, the photographs, the celebration. But for Michael Campbell, the New Zealander who conquered the 2005 US Open, winning felt more like surviving a war, and the enemies in that war were not the course or the weather. They were 5 specific men who extracted everything he had, leaving him exhausted, traumatized, and forever changed. Campbell calls them the unforgiven. This phrase carries no personal hatred. It is an acknowledgement of the immense toll these competitors took on his mind and body. They are Tiger Woods, the apex predator; Retief Goosen, the collapsing giant; Jason Gore, the fallen prince; Paul McGinley, the relentless grinder; and Thomas Bjorn, the playoff nemesis. Each one played a role in forging Campbell's greatest year, but also in draining every ounce of his reserves. To understand why these 5 men occupy such a unique place in Campbell's memory, you need to know where he was before 2005. 10 years earlier, at the 1995 Open Championship at St. Andrews, a young Campbell had led after 3 rounds. He seemed destined for greatness, but he faded on Sunday while John Daly claimed the claret jug. That loss started a decade of ups and downs, brilliance mixed with obscurity. By mid-2005, Campbell was a respected player on the European Tour, but his major championship dreams were fading. He was not ranked among the elite. His path to the US Open required qualifying, not exemptions. Campbell was exhausted from his schedule and had initially decided to skip the US Open qualifier at Walton Heath. It was his wife Julie who intervened, persuading him to make the attempt. This decision changed everything. The qualifier itself was brutal. Campbell needed to birdie the final hole, a difficult par 4, just to secure his spot. He made a 6-foot putt on the last green. Had that putt missed, Campbell would have watched the US Open from home. This context matters. Campbell arrived at Pinehurst number 2, not as a favorite, but as a qualifier who had scraped into the field. This underdog mindset gave him a dangerous kind of freedom, and that psychological state would prove vital when facing the titans on his list. The first name Campbell will never forgive is Retief Goosen. Goosen's crime was not beating Campbell. It was abandoning him to the wolves. Entering the 2005 US Open, Goosen was the defining US Open player of his era. He had won in 2001 and 2004. He was the defending champion, known as the Iceman for his emotionless demeanor under pressure. Through 3 rounds at Pinehurst, Goosen dominated. He shot 69 on Saturday to reach 3 under par, holding a commanding 3-shot lead over the field. For Campbell, who started Sunday 4 strokes back, Goosen represented a paradoxical kind of safety. As long as Goosen was leading, the spotlight stayed on him. Goosen acted as a shield, absorbing the media attention and fan expectations. Campbell could play in the shadows, free from the suffocating weight of being the man to beat. What happened on Sunday, June 19, 2005, remains one of the most shocking events in major championship history. Goosen completely unraveled. Pinehurst number 2 has upturned saucer greens that demand precision. Miss the correct area and the ball rolls into impossible chipping spots. Goosen began missing fairways from the opening holes. Then came uncharacteristic putting mistakes. He did not just fade, he plummeted. Goosen carded an 11 over par 81, a score so catastrophic it removed him from contention before the back 9 was even complete. Why does Campbell never forgive a friend for losing? The answer lies in the psychological vacuum Goosen created. When a leader collapses that totally, the structure of the tournament shatters. The shield vanished. Suddenly Campbell was not chasing a distant leader. He was thrust into the lead himself. The collapse of a leader is often more stressful than a duel. In a duel, your opponent pushes you forward. In a collapse, you fight the sudden realization that you are now the target. Campbell watched the leaderboard and saw Goosen's name sliding backward. He was no longer the hunter, he was the hunted. And the man hunting him was Tiger Woods. Campbell's inability to forgive Goosen is rooted in this moment of exposure. Had Goosen shot a respectable 74, Campbell might have finished second and been content, or won in a standard battle. But by shooting 81, Goosen turned the US Open into chaos. He stripped away the order of the day and left Campbell exposed to the terrifying roar of Tiger's galleries. It was a betrayal of expectations. The Iceman melted, and in doing so, he nearly drowned Campbell in the resulting flood of pressure. If Goosen was the distant king who fell, Jason Gore was the beloved prince whose demise broke hearts. The second man on Campbell's list represents the emotional toll of that Sunday. Jason Gore's story in 2005 was pure Hollywood. A journeyman playing on the nationwide tour, Gore was not supposed to be in contention. Yet through 3 rounds, he found himself in the final pairing, just 3 shots back of Goosen and tied for second place. Gore was charismatic and relatable. He wore his heart on his sleeve. The Pinehurst crowds adopted him, dubbing him the Prince of Pinehurst. The energy around his group was electric, fueled by the hope of a true underdog story. Sunday was cruel to Gore. His fairy tale turned into a nightmare. Playing alongside Goosen, Gore also succumbed to the course. He shot a 14 over par 84. Everything that could go wrong did. The cheers of the crowd slowly morphed into sympathetic groans, then into respectful silence. The final pairing of Goosen and Gore combined for a score of 165, 25 over par. This is statistically one of the worst performances by a final pairing in major championship history. Campbell's inclusion of Gore on his unforgiven list speaks to the difficulty of playing near such tragedy. Golf is a selfish game. A player must focus entirely on their own ball. But when the final group implodes, it creates a strange, deflationary environment. Campbell was playing in the group ahead. He could hear the disaster unfolding behind him. He was not hearing roars. He was hearing the sounds of a car crash. To win, he had to harden his heart against Gore's plight. He had to ignore that the people's champion was being destroyed. There is a specific kind of mental energy required to block out sympathy and maintain aggression. Furthermore, Gore's collapse meant Campbell had no buffer from behind. With the final group effectively out of contention by the turn, Campbell was left alone on the leaderboard island. Only Tiger Woods, ahead of him, posed a threat. Gore's failure to put up a fight meant Campbell had to shoulder the entire burden of stopping Woods. Campbell never forgives Gore for the heartbreak of watching a dream die, and for the distraction that tragedy caused during the most critical round of his life. Before we continue with the most terrifying name on this list, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt the weight of expectations crushing you in a moment that mattered? That is what Campbell felt. If you are enjoying this deep dive into the psychological side of golf, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me which rivalry shocked you most so far. Now let's talk about the man who made Campbell's blood run cold, Tiger Woods. The third name, and undoubtedly the most significant, is Tiger Woods. If Goosen and Gore are unforgiven for their absence, Woods is unforgiven for his overwhelming presence. In 2005, Tiger Woods was not just a golfer, he was a phenomenon. He had won the Masters in April. He was world number 1. He was in his prime. When Tiger was on a leaderboard, the physical chemistry of the air changed. The Tiger roar, a distinct, guttural sound from the gallery, was a weapon he used to intimidate opponents. Campbell beat Woods by 2 strokes, but the victory was not a gentle coast to the finish. It was a desperate, clawing fight to survive a back-nine charge that Woods launched with lethal intent. Woods started the final round at 3 over par, trailing the leaders. As Goosen and Gore fell away, Woods began to stalk the lead. He birdied the 10th hole, then the 11th, igniting the crowd. He added another birdie at 15 to pull within striking distance. Campbell later described hearing the roars ahead. Every time Woods made a putt, the sound rolled back through the pines like a shockwave. Campbell knew exactly what those sounds meant. He was not just playing the course, he was playing against the inevitability of Woods. The tournament was decided on the closing stretch, in a sequence Campbell likely replays with a mixture of pride and trauma. At the 16th hole, Woods, pressing for the tie, missed a crucial 8-foot par putt. This was a crack in the armor, a rare mistake from the ultimate closer. Then came the 17th hole, a par 3. This was the knockout punch. Woods, playing ahead, 3-putted for bogey from 25 feet. It was a shocking error. Campbell, standing on the tee behind, saw the opportunity. He hit a magnificent iron shot to within 20 feet. Knowing that a birdie would open a seemingly insurmountable gap, Campbell drained the putt. A 2-shot swing on a single hole against Tiger Woods in the final hour of a U.S. Open. This is the stuff of dreams and nightmares. Campbell's statement that he will never forgive Woods is the highest form of compliment. It acknowledges that Woods took Campbell to a place of stress he had never visited before. The sheer exhaustion of holding off a charging Tiger Woods is legendary. Many players have crumbled under it. Campbell stood firm. To beat Tiger in his prime is very overwhelming, not underwhelming. The unforgivable aspect is the gray hairs, the accelerated heart rate, the sheer terror of those final 2 hours. Woods made Campbell earn every single ounce of that trophy, ensuring the victory would forever be associated with the pain required to achieve it. 3 months after the fires of Pinehurst, Campbell faced a different kind of torture in Surrey, England. The 4th man on the list is Paul McGinley, and the setting was the 2005 HSBC World Matchplay Championship. The tournament at Wentworth was the richest in golf, with a first-place prize of £1 million. The format was 36-hole match play, a grueling test where players go head-to-head for an entire day. Paul McGinley was the archetype of the grinder. He was not the longest hitter or the flashiest player, but he possessed a tenacity that made him formidable in match play. McGinley had battled his way to the final. Campbell faced McGinley in the final. Unlike stroke play, where a single bad hole by an opponent can give you breathing room, match play against a grinder like McGinley is a relentless exchange of blows. McGinley simply would not go away. If Campbell hit a great shot, McGinley matched it. If Campbell faltered, McGinley capitalized. The match extended deep into the second round of 18 holes. Walking 35 holes on the undulating terrain of Wentworth is physically shattering. Campbell never forgives McGinley because the Irishman forced him to empty the tank completely. Coming off the emotional high of the US Open, Campbell was running on fumes. McGinley made him sprint a marathon. The victory secured Campbell the biggest paycheck of his life, but the effort left him drained. McGinley's refusal to yield turned a golf match into a street fight, leaving Campbell victorious, but battered. The final name on the list is Thomas Bjorn, the Great Dane. Bjorn's inclusion represents the unique trauma of the playoff, the sudden death shootout where careers are defined by the finest margins. Bjorn and Campbell were contemporaries, both successful European Tour players who had flirted with major championship glory. Their careers intersected dramatically, twice in playoffs. In 2003, Campbell faced Bjorn and Peter Hedblum in a playoff at the Nissan Irish Open. Campbell won with a birdie on the first extra hole. This win broke a slump for Campbell. However, the stress of a playoff against a player of Bjorn's caliber is immense. Bjorn is known for his intensity and his volatile brilliance. In May 2005, just a month before his US Open breakthrough, the roles reversed. Campbell found himself in a playoff at the British Masters at the Forest of Arden. This time, Bjorn prevailed. Campbell was defeated. Losing a playoff is a specific kind of pain. You have tied the lead over 72 holes, only to lose in minutes. For Campbell, losing to Bjorn in 2005 was a bitter pill. It was a denial of victory, just as his form was peaking. Campbell never forgives Bjorn, because Bjorn is the one who pushed him to the edge and occasionally pushed him off. The symmetry of their battles means Bjorn represents the equal and opposite force to Campbell. He is the reminder that on any given Sunday, the difference between the trophy and the runner-up plate is a single putt. The anxiety Bjorn induced in those sudden death moments earns him his place on the list of the unforgiven. Why use the word forgive? In the context of Michael Campbell's career, forgiveness implies a release of emotional weight. To never forgive is to hold on to that weight, to acknowledge that the experience changed you. The 2005 season was the peak of Michael Campbell's life. He achieved what few golfers ever do. He stared down Tiger Woods and won. He survived the collapse of his peers. He outlasted the grinders, but the effort required to do so was unsustainable. Following 2005, Campbell's form slowly deserted him. He struggled with injuries and the burden of expectation, eventually retiring from professional golf before a brief stint on the senior tours. It is highly probable that the sheer intensity of the battles with Woods, Goosen, Gore, McGinley, and Bjorn burned through Campbell's reserves. They extracted the very best golf of his life, but they left him with nothing in the tank for the encore. So, which of these 5 rivals do you think hurt Campbell the most mentally? Was it the terror of Tiger, the chaos of Goosen's collapse, the heartbreak of Gore, the exhaustion from McGinley, or the playoff pain from Bjorn? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Ultimately, this list is a badge of honor. A golfer is defined by their opponents. To list Tiger Woods as an unforgiven rival is to say, I fought the king. To list Retief Goosen is to say, I survived the chaos. To list Jason Gore is to say I stayed focused amidst tragedy. To list Paul McGinley and Thomas Bjorn is to say I battled the toughest men in Europe. These 5 men did not make Michael Campbell's life easy. They made it incredibly, painfully hard. And in doing so, they made him a US Open champion. He may never forgive them for the gray hairs, the stress, and the exhaustion, but history will never forget the year he beat them all.